Okay, thank you very much, Veronica. I thought maybe Frank, you could just start off by giving a bit of context for what the workshop is about and what the value of this kind of activity is. So maybe Frank, you could just say a few words to begin.
Sure. I think thanks, Mark. I think in the interest of time, the big thing would be to say is that by putting you into the game, I think it really helps people to understand the details of how the markets work, what market rules have what effect. And the last thing I'd say is that the one thing we like to emphasize is there's no such thing as a wrong answer or a wrong behavior. There are only learning experiences. So don't be afraid of making a mistake, because there is no mistake. I think it's very helpful for folks to understand, what's happened, and that's one of the things that we'll certainly do. But these markets are extremely complicated and only getting more complicated. And I think this is a very good way to help folks understand how they work and what works and what doesn't work in terms of market design. So rather than going longer, I'll turn it over to you, Mark, and start it off.
Okay, thanks. So let me share my screen. Okay, yeah. So thank you, everybody. We're excited to have this large group where we appreciate the efforts of our partners at ADBI. Also, thanks a lot to the folks at the Energy Studies Institute. We're sorry we couldn't make it to Singapore this time, but hopefully in the future we can do some in person. And so yes, as we've talked about, the background for what we're doing today is we've done 2 of these sessions before, working with ADBI, and we thought they worked well. And so this session is a little bit longer, and we're going to try to get so as Frank was talking about, we've come to really like this game-based way of exploring the ways different kinds of markets worked. We've done this now for at least 7 or 8 years. This approach to looking at markets and understanding them started in a class that we teach at Stanford, and we kind of increasingly realized that Frank and I teach this together, that the less we talked and the more we played games, the more people got out of it, and that's a really valuable approach to learning. And we have a lot of distinguished people, as Professor Lee was saying, from many countries, many different roles. So folks from government regulators, from other parts of government. We have academics. We have market participants, and so it's just over time we've really come to like this approach to learning about markets together, because we learn quite a bit from doing these as well, when we're trying out new market approaches and seeing what all of you do. So that's part of the excitement, is that we don't know what's going to happen either. So it's always something new. So so we're talking about electricity markets in a high renewables world. And the mechanism that we were really interested in trying to end up going through on day 2 is day-ahead markets specifically. And this is a place. So this is what we have in California. This is there. Many markets work this way, where there will be a market that's run day ahead, and then a market that's run in real time that clears all the imbalances relative to what happens day ahead. And this is a relatively recent set of games that we've developed around day ahead markets, partly because in our Stanford class, people just this was something people really wanted to understand how it worked. And it's as you'll see tomorrow, this is a very useful mechanism for a number of reasons. But one of them is for integrating high shares of renewable energy into electricity markets. So what we're going to go through today is a lot of the building blocks that we'll sort of need to understand day ahead markets when we do that tomorrow. And so, yeah, like we were talking about, it's things like just the basic structure of wholesale markets, transmission congestion, and then especially forward contracts. And so, together, all of those will sort of build to what we'll end up doing tomorrow. Just a few quick notes. So we're going to have, I realize people are on different time zones, so we are definitely going to have a 15-minute break, because I know people may need to quickly microwave some food, or because different people's lunches will be at different times. So about halfway through, we'll take a 15-minute break. And then I'd also like to acknowledge, I think lurking in the background on this call is the person on our side who makes it all possible, who's Trevor Davis, who's the programmer of the game for us. He's got his PhD in our program and now works. We're delighted that he's still working with us after getting his PhD. So, okay, so any questions before we get started, or are we ready to start going? And I'll take silence as a ready to start going. So let's go ahead and dive in. And so I'm going to just start, and some of this, for some people may be review, for some people it may be new, but what we always find is, even if we sort of think we know something about how the market works, it's always a different feeling when you actually try it out for yourself. So we're going to start off by talking about just the basic operation of wholesale electricity markets. And I just want to start with a few preliminaries about some of the power plant characteristics that will be relevant, because of course all of you will be operating your own generating units. And again, I realize this is probably review for a lot of folks, but I just think it's useful to go over it quickly. And so what I show in this table, this is very stylized. Don't take these to be the actual statistics of real units necessarily. But the parameters that we're going to be talking a lot about, so is we have capacity, right? So that's just what's the power output that a generating unit can produce. So that's in megawatts. I just have a few sample examples here. Like, imagine we have some large coal-fired power plant. Maybe we have a smaller capacity gas turbine peaker. So capacity. Marginal cost. So we'll be talking about this a lot when we think about how to bid. And so this is just what's the incremental cost of producing that next megawatt hour of energy, right? So this is a cost you incur for running to generate additional energy. You do not incur it when your plant is not operating. So that will be $1 per megawatt hour of energy. Then we have a fixed cost. So that's something that's just going to be a fixed amount. So that's a sunk cost. Whether your plant runs or not, you will incur that fixed cost. And then I just have on this table emissions rate. So we're not going to play any carbon pricing games in this workshop, but that's another thing that we can do sometimes. And if you do that, then the price of carbon will factor into your marginal cost, because if you run a power plant, you're going to generate CO2, which you'll have to pay for, either in the form of allowances that you trade or a carbon tax. So most of the marginal cost of what we're talking about, largely sort of fossil fuel fired units in our game, although we'll also have renewables. So, a lot of this is going to be the cost of fuel, but there could be other things as well. And, most of the fixed cost of these plants is just going to be, well, this is, sort of what it costs to sort of finance and build your plant. So that's going to be sunk once it's built. Okay, so let's move on here, and feel free to interrupt me at any time with questions. Okay, so this, just as I mentioned, we're not going to be playing games that have a carbon price in our game, but I just thought this would be interesting to sort of start with, because the point I want to make here is that in choosing which plants to build, you're going to want to think about levelized cost of energy. So if you're deciding to build a new power plant, and so that LCOE includes both the fixed cost of the plant and your anticipated variable, operating costs over the lifetime of the plant. And so kind of discounted to net present value for both of those. So if you're trying to decide which plant to build, you're going to want to be thinking about levelized cost, which includes fixed and variable costs. What you'll see as we play is you're going to be, in general, stuck with plants that have already been built that we've given you. And so a really important point here is that once your units are built, the fixed costs are no longer going to factor into your decision making about how you bid them into the markets, because those are sunk. Whether you run or not, you're going to incur exactly the same cost. And so, just to make one more point about, the role of the different kinds of plants. So, we'll have in a lot of our games, a base plant that we call it, an intermediate plant, and a peaker plant. And here, in this particular case, I'm assuming my base plant is coal, and then I have a gas, which is maybe kind of my intermediate, and then a gas peak. And so really what typifies the differences between, base, intermediate, peak is it's the balance of fixed costs and variable costs typically. So if you think about a big baseload plant, that's going to typically have very high fixed costs. So that's typically going to be a more expensive plant to build. So certainly nuclear power plants are a great example of, classic very high fixed cost. Coal-fired power plants are like that. Even gas combined cycle is sort of, you would think of as a baseload plant. So those are those are more expensive to build, but in exchange, they tend to be higher efficiency power plants. And so your operating costs are lower. You have a lower marginal cost for that. And by contrast, your classic peaker plant is going to generally be very cheap to build, and it's going to have a much higher variable cost. And that's typically because they're just not as efficient. So this would be a gas open cycle gas turbine instead of combined cycle. And so the idea with a baseload plant is you want to be running a lot of the time to make back your fixed costs, but then your peakers are the ones that are just going to be running when prices are high. Okay, so all right, so let's move on to the next one. And so so there was a question about fixed cost in this context is CapEx. Yes, and yes, that's going to be the vast majority. It's the capital expenditure to buy it and to build it, and then you're kind of amortizing that over time. So okay, so now we're leaving behind we're already stuck with the plants that we've built. So now we're thinking about how those are going to operate and be dispatched in the market, right? So we're mostly going to be talking here in this workshop about bid-based markets. So you all are going to be placing bids for the price at which you're willing to operate all your power plants. But just as an exercise, we can first consider actually a cost-based market, and this exists in a number of locations. Latin America has cost-based dispatch in a number of markets, and so the idea here is you just take all the marginal costs of your different power plants in a market, and you just stack them all up from lowest marginal cost to highest marginal cost, right? And so here on the y-axis, I have the price, and on the x-axis, I have quantity. And so, just if you imagine that this is a single power plant, that then the width of this line here is going to be related to the capacity. In other words, how much energy can it put out in a certain period of time? And then, the way I've drawn this will just be the marginal cost. So, imagine this one here. Maybe it's a big nuclear plant or a big coal plant where, has a lot of capacity and relatively low marginal cost because the fuel is cheap. Although, as all of you probably know, even coal is not very cheap right now. So, and coal is very expensive. Gas is very expensive. So, anyway, in a cost-based market, the system operator is just stacking up from least cost to highest cost, and then just crossing this with the demand curve, which I've drawn here. And then, based on that, you are just deciding that the market operator is saying, okay, this is our market clearing price that we need to clear the market. And this is how much total output we need. So how much total generation to satisfy demand, right? So, just this is where the supply curve is crossing the demand curve. So everything to the left of this line where Q0 is, they're all being dispatched. So the operator is telling them, okay, you folks run in this hour or whatever time period. Everyone to the right, they're not dispatched. So they're not needed for these particular demand conditions, right? And so, and then we almost all of these markets are running as uniform price auction, which means that, and we'll go into this in more detail, but which means that everybody that's running all those power plants are all paid this market clearing price. Okay, so this is just this is just how it works in a cost-based market, right? Where nobody's bidding, the power plants are just telling the market operator, telling the regulator, these are our marginal costs of all our units, and the regulator stacks them all up. Okay, so and I'll try actually. Let me put the chat up. So okay. Oh, okay, sure. So there's a question about why the marginal curve, the marginal cost curve is shaped like stairs. Well, it's mainly in this case because and this is how we're going to do it in the game too. So all of the plants, and this is a little bit of a simplification, but we're assuming that a given power plant has a certain marginal cost, a constant marginal cost to run, right? So independent of output, in this kind of simplified way of looking at the market. If you had, you could have markets where people were bidding in different amounts, but in general, this is reflective of what an offer curve will look like in the markets, where you're just bidding these stair steps, right? So where I just have, okay, this much of my output, I have a certain marginal cost there, and I'm just stepping this up. So in this in this example, I'm just assuming each one of these stair steps is one power plant. So, okay, so yeah, so people feel free to keep asking questions in the chat. Yeah, so the supply curve here in the chart is in this cost-based market is the blue offer curve, but in this case it's just people's marginal costs. So. Okay, so now let me go to the. Okay, so you can see in this example, if where we have these plants getting dispatched, as I said, this was a uniform price auction, so everybody gets paid the market clearing price P0, and then this gray area is variable profits. So that's just profits ignoring fixed costs. So, if let's say this person generates 1,000 megawatt hours in an hour, and let's say their marginal cost was 20, let's say the market clearing price was 50, So then, they'll get paid the difference between 50 and, or their profits. They'll be paid 50, but their cost is 20. So for every megawatt hour they generate, they have a variable profit of $30 per megawatt hour. And if we just assume, let's say this is 1,000 megawatt hours in an hour, so then they would, this unit would have made $30,000 in that market, in that hour. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go to what we're going to be doing, which is bid-based markets. So let's just, as a starting assumption, I'm just going to say, okay, well, if all these generating unit operators bid, so now these black lines are what these units are bidding. So what the generating companies are bidding them in at. And so, what that bid is just saying is I am willing to run. So if I bid my marginal cost here with this black line, I'm just saying I'm willing to run in that hour if the electricity price is at or above what I've bid, and I'm not willing to run if it's below what I've bid. So that's, that's all that offer is into the market. And so, I've just, if everybody bids exactly their marginal cost, and if they correctly reported their marginal cost to the regulator, then this bid-based market where everyone bids marginal cost looks exactly like the cost-based market. But the difference is, in a bid-based market, I'm not constrained to bidding my marginal cost. I can bid anything up to what the offer cap is in that market. Okay, so, but here we have it well behaved where people are bidding their. Yeah, so there's a question, and I think this is something that we'll get into more. What is the purpose of using the market clearing price, right? Well, so I think that potentially has two dimensions, right? Well, one thing is, okay, we have to pay people, in this case, right? So to clear the market, right? This price was the equal to the marginal cost, or equal to the bid of the most expensive market we needed to clear the market, right? So that's, the definition of the market clearing price. But I suspect that maybe Tan is getting at another question here, which is, why are we paying this market clearing price to these people where we know their costs are lower, right? And so that we'll hold that thought, because we'll explore that. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the important thing to remember that Mark hasn't talked about is, how do we know what the firm's costs are? We don't. We're in some sense assuming that we know what the firm's costs are, but they're not exactly going to be out there telling us what they are if they know that's what we're going to use to compensate them. And that is another of the issues with respect to why we run a market, is because, as you will see, if you don't think that you can influence the market price with your offer, then you will bid. You have essentially, it is expected profit maximizing for you to bid your marginal cost in an offer-based market. So in other words, you reveal through your bid what your cost is, because if we think of it as, if we see realizations of the market clearing price and we see you in and we see you out of the market, you could, if you like, the lowest price at which you are in the market is pretty close to your marginal cost. And that is the other reason that we like to run markets. But Mark's point's exactly right as well with respect to, why are we paying all these other units the market clearing price? And that's because, as it said, recover those fixed costs. But we'll talk about.
We'll explore that. Yeah. But yeah, Frank brings up, and Frank, you could turn on your video the next time you jump in.
Oh, sorry.
As well. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, Frank brings up a great point, right? Which is, so I've kind of said, well, if everybody bids their market, marginal cost, right, like I've shown in this diagram, then it looks exactly like this cost-based market, right? But the cost-based market is relying on everybody correctly reporting their marginal cost, right, to the system operator. And they might not always have the incentive to do that. And so this is a thing we like about markets, is that under the right conditions, if the market is working the right way, it can make people reveal their costs. So we don't have to depend on their virtue in how they report to the regulator. So yeah, great. Thanks, Frank. Okay, so now let's think about, okay, so now we're the GenCos. So, and this is sort of the beauty, I mean, especially for all you regulators out there, is it's really kind of a useful exercise to be a GenCo, like you will for the next couple of days, because you sort of think about, okay, well, what's how are market participants approaching this? So let's consider now, I just have 3 individual power plants. So a really simple market here. So I have base, intermediate, and peak. And here's what so if we have this case of where everybody does bid their marginal cost, then what does this market look like? And let's assume for now that each of these plants is owned by a different company. So if everybody bids their marginal cost, then we clear at a price of P0, and so intermediate makes 0 variable profits because they run. So everything to the left of this line runs, and so intermediate runs at almost full capacity. There's a little bit of price responsiveness of demand here. So as the price goes up, there's a little bit of shrinking demand. So that's why, intermediate isn't running fully. So they make 0, they run, but they don't make any variable profits because they're paid exactly what their marginal costs are. And then base makes a little bit of variable profits because we're paying them this market clearing price P0, and their cost was only, and what they bid also, which was their marginal cost, is a little bit lower. Okay. All right. So we're gonna be very participatory here, hopefully for the whole time. Already we've gotten a good. And so there's a question about how does the market clearing price update, every month, day, or hour. So yes, it can be on. I mean, this, the examples we'll start with here. We're going to be using units of hours that will have our market, and that's kind of typical for what a day ahead market, the time period it might look at. But the trend, for our real-time markets, in California and elsewhere, is it's going to smaller and smaller, time scales, right? So there's sort of 15-minute real-time market or a 5-minute period, and partly this is to handle the variability of renewables increasingly. Frank, were you saying something or no?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. The real-time market clears more frequently, largely because think of it as you need to clear the market as you need supply equal demand in every instant in time. And so to the extent that supply is more uncertain, you're going to need to clear the market more frequently. And then also one of the things that we're abstracting away from today is the fact that there's also what are called operating reserves, which essentially ensure that even though you're clearing the market every 5 minutes, they're second to second at all locations in the grid. Supply is equal demand. That's typically being provided by things like automatic generation control and other kinds of operating reserves to make sure that happens. But that gets into the weeds a bit too much for today. So we'll just stick with the idea that you're clearing the market in some abstract time interval.
Yeah. So okay. So thanks. And yeah, like as Frank was saying, and this is one reason why we're excited to talk about day ahead market versus real time, because that's what is known as a multi-settlement market, where the market settles at different times ahead of when the market actually runs. And sort of don't worry about like for now, we're just thinking about the markets as just running, in one particular hour. But as Frank said, in real markets, this multi-settlement aspect is very helpful. And day ahead will be very helpful because it allows for better optimization of how plants are dispatched. And then, having this sort of, fine time resolution on real time, can to settle, at different time intervals can be very helpful for managing the sort of, minute to minute variation in supply, especially. But don't worry too. So we'll get a much better look at how that all works tomorrow when we look at how a day ahead market works versus real time. Okay, great. So great question. Okay, all right. So class participation time. So the first question here is, should you ever, and re-emphasizing what Frank said at the very beginning, there are really no wrong answers to these questions. Also, no wrong strategies when you're starting to play the game, because things that people aren't quite getting, or a misconception, like if one person has it, multiple people are going to have it, and it's very instructive to sort of break down, okay, why that might not be the right answer or the right strategy. So please feel free to speak up. So first question here, feel free to raise your hand or put in the chat. Should you ever bid below marginal cost? So should I ever put in a bid below the blue line? Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Mark. I think if you can predict the market and you can bid below the marginal cost for only short time period, and you can increase your bid for the longer period next time.
Okay, so what you're talking about, doing it for short periods, and so one reason why you might want to do that is what Faith is mentioning in the chat. You might have, there might be operational reasons why, for example, if it's very expensive to start up and shut down a plant, Faith is saying if your plant needs to be running at some minimum load, so there might be reasons why you're willing to lose a little bit of money in a particular time period, because that'll enable you to keep your plant running, and you'll make more later. So totally true. So very good points. But let's abstract away from the real, these real world considerations, right? What about, so another, Len is saying to try to price some other bidder out of the market. Maybe, I mean, that's sort of a long-term, I suppose if you think that you can, drive some people out quickly enough, and get a more concentrated market position. So maybe that's true. But let's again just abstract away. And so just from my very simple example, if you just assume that plants can turn on and off, it will, costlessly, assuming we're not trying to drive other people out of the market to have a monopoly position. Okay, yeah. So Passamon, I guess, is saying yes. So in this ideal condition, you would not want to bid below marginal cost. So that's right. And so the way to sort of see that, right? So let's imagine, I'm the operator of this peak plant, right? So if, let's say that every day of the year and every year, let's say it always looks like this hour, right? So what's going to happen to my peak plant if demand in every single hour forever is what it is here? How often is the peak plant going to run if it bids marginal cost? like never, right? Right? Because yeah, exactly. So you know, if I just have this same hour every period of the year, bid marginal cost, never going to run, right? And so, you know, so that plant's going to lose money, assuming they have some fixed cost, right? They're never going to be able to recover it. So, but think about the the alternative for them. So they could say, you know, I'm tired of not running. I'm going to bid down here, right? So I'll bid, you know, let's say this P0 is maybe it's clearing at $40, right? I'm going to bid, you know, and maybe base has a, you know, is marginal cost is $30, right? Well, I'm going to bid $25, right? So I know I'm going to be in the market, right? So then this order of plants, you know, what's called the merit order, will change. So now, you know, my peak plant will run first, right? And then if everyone else bids the same, then my base plant will run, and then just a little bit of the intermediate will run, right? So peak can run all the time, but now you're still gonna clear, you know, in that example I gave, you'll still clear probably at I think at P0, because I think you'll still need a little bit of this intermediate capacity. And but the peak, their marginal cost was up here, say at you know, whatever that is, $80 or $70 or $80, right? So the way to think about it is, okay, they're clearing at $40, they're being paid $40, but their marginal cost of buying, you know, their natural gas, you know, that costs them more. So basically, they're doing even worse than not running, because they're losing money on every megawatt hour, because it costs more for the fuel than they're being paid, right? So in this simplified kind of ideal case, like you're not gonna bid below marginal cost. All right. Okay. So next question: should you ever bid above marginal cost? And let me let me go to this next screen and address this. And so let's think about this in a specific case. So now we're getting rid of Peak. Peak realized it wasn't ever going to be profitable. He exited the market. So he retired. Was fed up with all these renewables. You know, get rid of their gas-fired unit. Okay, so now we have these two units, and assume that they're operated by two different companies, right? And so let's imagine I'm the intermediate unit, and we're in a market with an offer cap of $500 per megawatt hour. So what should I bid now to try to do as well as I can financially?
You might want to clarify it's intermediate you're asking about.
Right, I'm asking for intermediate. Okay, so Faith votes for 500. Ruchika is saying demand is more than what base can meet, so intermediate can go above its marginal cost. So I'll ask Ruchika, so how much above should they go? Just a little bit, just enough to recover their costs?
I tend to agree with Faith. There is an opportunity to try and push up all the way to 500.
Absolutely, right? So
and why is that?
Yeah, why can you do that?
What is it that caused you to conclude that?
Well, if that's the offer cap, I think that's where I see the opportunity that they can push all the way up to that offer cap, and clearly demand is much higher than what base can meet.
Yep,
But
exactly.
that's what's the key, is that
that's the key.
At the offer cap, demand is still very
exactly
high.
And so
you make it up, even though you lose a little bit of volume, you more than make it up on price. But if we change the demand curve to be flatter, that wouldn't be true.
Yep. No, so exactly. So what you've just described, what Ruchika has just described, is called being pivotal. And so what that means is you take, you know, in this case, this is the demand at the offer cap, right, is this point here. I'll just drop, you know, if you drop a vertical line from this intersection of the offer cap and the demand curve. So this is the demand at the offer cap, right? And so to decide if you're pivotal at the offer cap, you take the demand at that price, right? So demand at 500 is this, minus everybody else's capacity. So everybody else in this case is base. And so then the question is, do you have a positive number remaining when you subtract everybody else from your demand at that price? And the answer is yes. This is your positive amount that, as Ruchika was saying, this amount of generation from intermediate is needed, or else the lights go out, right? And so in California, we're getting increasing experience with the lights going out. So that means that intermediate is pivotal. So we'll follow yours and Faith's suggestion. We'll bid 500. And so here's what we make. So remember before, if everybody bid marginal cost, we made 0 variable profits. And now, as Frank said, we've lost a little bit of volume because there's some demand responsiveness to price. But now we've got this big, tall, shaded area that's much bigger than the non-existent shaded area we had before, right? And now, of course, base, in our example, they just bid their marginal cost. So they're just loving this, right? They've got all their volume and they're getting paid because, again, this is a uniform price market. Everybody gets paid that market clearing price. So they're getting this huge box, right? And so this is called exercise of unilateral market power. And so all that means is exercise of unilateral market power just means that you are able to influence the price with your bid, right? So you are these market conditions, and this was kind of a clear case here because intermediate knew that it was pivotal, right? Which meant by definition they could bid anything up to the offer cap if they were pivotal at that offer cap, and they would still need to run some amount. So for them, even though they lost volume, they did much better because they pushed the price up enough. And remember, this is totally legal. This is indeed what what these companies are supposed to do to serve their fiduciary duty to their shareholders. So this is an inherent part of these markets. Tan is saying that you don't know how much demand is, and that could be true. But also there will be situations where you will have a pretty good sense at certain times of what demand is going to be. You could be it's sort of California. Our big problem is the late summer, right? You pretty much know in the heat wave everyone's going to be running their air conditioners. You pretty much know early evening when the solar turns off because the sun is set. Demand is still going to be high. It's still hot. People are still using their appliances, and you have less supply and high demand. Frank?
Oh, I was just going to say, but that is certainly true, that demand is uncertain, and you don't know exactly what you're going to sell. But even if demand was, it's hard to be able to see that demand would fluctuate enough with the advance notice that you have for you not to know that when you're very likely to be pivotal, it's a good idea.
Yeah. And there's a question about more elaborating more on the demand curve, why it decreases. So basically, obviously this is a very simplified demand curve that I'm showing, but just what this is reflecting is especially in real time, there's not a lot of ability of demand usually to respond to price, but there is some ability to respond to price, right? So that there may be, some kinds of, it could be various demand response kinds of things, but there, there are, that's what demand response is really doing, right? It's a response to, as price goes up, we're able to use less electricity, right? And one thing that's very interesting, and you can sort of see, how would intermediate, let's say this demand was much more price responsive. Let's say it looked, something like this, right? So just a small price change, demand was able to reduce its electricity use a lot. How would that have affected the ability of intermediate to exercise unilateral market power? if the demand curve, looks much more elastic. Does that make it easier for intermediate to exercise unilateral market power or harder?
I think you want to define elastic.
Yeah,
Flatter.
flatter. Yeah, just a smaller price increase, will reduce demand more. Yeah, it makes it harder, right? Because you can sort of see if you had it like what I drew, right? Like let's say the curve actually looked like this, then what would have happened when intermediate tried to push the price up? They would have lost all of their volume. The curve would have crossed on the vertical part maybe of this offer curve. So base would have run full out and the price would have been much lower. So this is an important thing to bear in mind. Demand response is one way of kind of mitigating this this market market power issue. I think it was I kind of lost it in the chat, but I think, let's see. Oh yeah, so Len was just saying significant distributed solar and storage that can bring uncertainty to the demand curve. Definitely significant distributed solar. It's some degree of storage. But more. Yeah, I mean the solar. Distributed solar, like kind of people's houses and stuff is a lot of uncertainty to the demand that is seen. Yeah.
But in defense, I would say that it's pretty sunny outside. What
Yeah.
It's fairly predictable still. I mean, even in
Right.
California where we have so much solar, it's it disappears and predictably with the sun. So yeah.
Right. Okay, just a final sort of quiz question here. So what about if I were base instead of intermediate, and let's say that for whatever reason, perhaps because they have forward contracts, and like let's say that intermediate as base, somehow I know that they're going to bid marginal cost, or I think so. What would my profit maximizing bid be for base? If let's say I somehow have this market intelligence that intermediate is going to bid its marginal cost, what should I bid as my base unit? Yeah, all right, 500. Yeah. So because base is pivotal too, right? So base has a lower marginal cost, but again, our pivotality calculation is just okay. This is the demand, at 500. If I want to see if I'm pivotal at a price of 500, I subtract the capacity of everybody else, which in this case is intermediate. So I subtract about this much, and I still have a positive number, right? So base is also pivotal. So
Now here's the toughest question.
Okay.
Mark qualified his question to you with, suppose that market intelligence had told you that intermediate was bidding its marginal cost, what should base bid? Now let's go to the more realistic case, which is you see this situation, you're intermediate and you're base, and you both have to submit at the same time. What should you bid? And the answer is, good question.
Yeah.
But, presumably what you might think would happen is, but there's no right answer to this question because you don't know what your competitor is going to do. But suppose you're base, you go, okay, intermediate can see that I am cheaper than him if I'm base, and intermediate knows that they're pivotal. So I think that intermediate would recognize that I want to make sure and sell a lot. So I'm certainly going to bid low and below intermediate's marginal cost. So therefore, intermediate, going through that logic goes, okay, I'll bid 500, given that I think base is going to bid below my marginal cost. But again, it's all about beliefs and what your beliefs about your competitors are. And the whole point of this just discussion is to say, this is why in many ways Adam Smith was right in that he said, that effectively businessmen don't meet but for the purpose of fixing price. And in this case, what you're trying to figure out is, even though we're not explicitly coordinating, I would very much like to have an idea of what you're going to do, because that's going to make it easier for me to know what to do. As you could see, when I asked you the question of base and intermediate, and you don't know what either is going to do, that's a much harder question than if you say, we know base is going to bid marginal cost, what should intermediate do? We know intermediate is going to, or base is, if intermediate is going to bid marginal cost, what should base do? That's easy. But when you don't know either, you have to engage in this kind of thought process. And that's why, as we said at the start, you want to know your competitor, but as well, there's no real wrong answer here. It depends on what you believe your competitors are going to do, and you try to assume that they're at least as intelligent as you think you are.
Excellent. Okay, and
yeah,
and so
if someone said if base and intermediate are owned by the same company, does it matter?
Yeah.
Probably, if you don't want to be detected, you'd probably bid, marginal cost for base to be able to say, yeah, I bid marginal cost, and then maybe 500 for intermediate, but that makes it real easy. It's the fact that, they're not owned by the same company.
Right. But if they are owned by the same company, again, like there's nothing illegal about bidding the offer cap, if you're the only, you're the only game in town, right? So there's never anything illegal about bidding the offer cap. What's illegal is, getting everyone together and say, hey, let's all bid the offer cap. Okay. All right. So that's collusion, which is different from unilateral market power. Okay. So just, unilateral market power, I just want to note that this is a particular challenge and salient issue in electricity markets for reasons specific. So you can have unilateral market power in all kinds of different markets, but things that make this more challenging in electricity markets is there's limited amounts of electricity storage, for limited timescales. It's expensive, right? If there were infinite cheap electricity storage, you could store it for as long as you wanted, then that would very much undercut the ability to exercise unilateral market power, because people would just, when electricity was really, really expensive, like they'd save up, right? They'd discharge their storage when it was really expensive. They'd charge when it was really cheap, as storage does, and so that would sort of mute this. But storage is still limited. A challenge about electricity markets is that supply has to equal demand at every location in the network at every point in time. So it's you might, in a lot of times, not have the potential to exercise unilateral market power, but still sometimes in places you might. This is a dynamic that's going to get more challenging with lots of wind and solar, where you might have places where normally this is a very competitive node in the network, but now it's not. You have transmission congestion and wind and solar that aren't there when you want them. Capacity constraints is another thing that makes this an issue for electricity markets, that there's no, to bring on new power plants or new storage or what have you, it generally takes a few years. So you can't just instantly throw in a power plant to alleviate some market power challenge. And so, you saw where this most often is observed is, when generators are pivotal, where there's limited demand response. And then, as we'll see later today, where generators do not have fixed price forward contracts for their power. Okay. So any questions? Frank, did you want to say something?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So any questions about this before we try it ourselves? All right, let's do it. Okay. So I'm going to, let me just give a little bit of background on the very simple market that we're going to play. And then what I'm going to do is show you all the mechanics of how this is going to work playing the game, and kind of take you through just the basic interface that you'll have as generating companies. And then, once we've sort of seen that, then we're going to break out into groups and try it ourselves, which is the most fun part. Okay, but just let me show you what this market is going to look like. So it's a pretty simple market. We have these 4 different market periods, 1, 2, 3, 4, which you can sort of imagine this is like 4 a.m., 10 a.m., 4 p.m., 10 p.m., and so all that's different between these 4 periods is the demand condition, right? So 4 a.m. is very low demand, 10 a.m. is higher, the 4 p.m. is our highest demand, and then 10 p.m. in our stylized world is sort of the second highest demand, right? So you can see that and so what I'm saying here is approximate demand in each of these periods in megawatt hours. And the reason it's approximate is actually these numbers are the demand that you would get if the price is 0. It's hard to see in this chart, but there is a tiny bit of price response here. So don't worry about it too much right now. But it's about I think it's every $5 is 1 megawatt hour of no, sorry, it's 5 megawatt hours demand reduction per dollar of price, right? So if you go up to the offer cap of 500, you will reduce demand, I think, by a total of 2,500. So that's because of this slight elasticity. And then the supply side. So I've shown here. So in the game displays, these black lines here are the marginal costs of all your units. And you could ask me, what are fixed costs? And I would be happy to tell you, but then you should ask yourself, do you really need to know? And I'll tell you the answer is no. But for at least for bidding here, right? But so you'll have in each market. So we're going to have 2 games that'll run at the same time. Each game will have four teams. So 4 generating companies in each game. Think of these as just completely different markets. All of these generating companies are the same. So you see here, so each of these, colored vertical columns is 1 power plant. So you can see everybody has 4 1,000 megawatt power plants that are base, that have a marginal cost of 20. Everybody has 4 that have a marginal cost of 45. Everybody has 4 that have a marginal cost of 90. So those are your base, intermediate, and peak. So if you look at it, you add them up. So every individual generating company has a total capacity of 12,000 megawatts. And, since there are 4 of them, total capacity in the market will be 48,000, right? And so you have 12,000. Everybody else in the market has 36,000. Everyone else in your market. So that's sort of the simple market we'll be playing. Okay, and so now let me show you how this will work. And so you'll have your team assignments, which I think were sent out, and then I think Nia, I assume once we're ready, you'll be able to send people out to their teams. Not yet. Yeah. So okay. So what's going to happen when how you're going to log into your links, and so everybody can try logging in here. Your teams are going to be 4 or 5 people in general on your team. And so generally the best way this works is you'll get into a breakout session, right? And I'll show you how you access your team links. not everybody has to log in to the game. Really, the best way it works is within your breakout, have one person who's logged into the game and can, share their screen in your breakout group, and then you can talk about it collectively as a group, and have that one person who has logged in. They can enter what your bids are after you've decided on that. So that's usually the best way. Doesn't hurt for multiple people to log into your part. Let me just take. Well, yeah, I can leave these in. Don't. I'll ask everyone. Don't log into the GM link. I could take them out, but I think it's fine. But just don't log into that. Just because you could accidentally do something like advance the game, and it doesn't provide any advantages. It would just mess it up. One time we at one point we thought in our class, we were like, oh, people are logging into the Game Master link and messing it all up, but actually it was something else going on. It wasn't their fault. So let me show you. And so what you're all going to do, or at least one person in your team, is going to log in to this website, because this basically this is just the URL for this Google Doc, right? Occasionally we'll have people that have trouble accessing Google Docs. Again, as long as one person on your team can access it, that's fine, right? But so what you're all going to do is you're going to, and people can try this right now if you want, just to make sure you're able to get to this page. So you should be able to, have on your browser, just put in this URL, or just, bit.ly / and I think it is case sensitive, capital ADBI dash capital S in Singapore.
Professor Mark,
yes.
Excuse me, can you share the link? I mean,
oh, sure. Yeah. Sorry. Let me. Oh, sorry. I'm not sharing. Okay. Yep. I get confused with the sharing that I'm looking at something that you are not looking at. So, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Nia. And I can also put this in the chat. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Let me put this in the chat as well. And so hopefully people can see it on the screen. Okay, in the chat. So here's the link. So you should be able to just click on that, and then yeah, thank you, Nia. So yeah, so just, feel free to log into this page, and you'll notice I've pasted in this slide that's just showing the basic market configuration. And then what you're going to be doing is, and so you don't have to log in yet to these links, because you can do that after we've sent you to your team. But what you can see is, so let's say that I'm team 5, right? Then I'm going to log in, and I'll just demonstrate this here, to Genco 1 in game B. And so what is my world going to look like? Okay, so chat, don't worry too much about this. This is our we're not experts on social media, but you actually do in theory have a way to chat with other groups. It's a little primitive, but sometimes entertaining. Conditions, so don't worry too much about this stuff at the top. Some of this is for our use. But auction type, uniform price. So this is very important. So it's just like we've been talking about so far. Everybody gets paid the market clearing price. And so you can see here, it's just showing, okay, location, like there's only one location. So these are actually the demand for period 1. It's a demand of 8,000, period 2, 20,000, etc. If we played the second day, periods 5, 6, 7, 8, that would sort of repeat. And then the only other thing to look at to start with is, so when you click on place bids, you'll see this screen, and you can click on each of these tabs to bid for the different 4 periods in the day. But we're going to start with, just for everybody to get the mechanics, we're going to start with just bidding for period 1, right? So this tells you what power plants you have. So everybody has these same portfolios. So it's telling you this megawatts, that's just the capacity. The CO2, that's if we were playing a carbon pricing game, that would be relevant. That's just how much CO2 your power plant emits if it runs at full capacity for an hour. And then slightly confusingly, where it says $0 per ton, this is actually the marginal cost for each of your plants. The reason it says $0 per ton is it's, again, when we have carbon pricing games, the marginal cost will be different according to the carbon price, but this is just the marginal cost at a carbon price of 0, which in most places is the carbon price because we're not pricing carbon. So, and so the thing you can see here is the game is defaulting all your bids to marginal cost, right? So if you don't change anything here, it will bid in all your units at marginal cost, right? But I can change it, and I'll change it back so I don't mess up Team 5. But so what you can see is I can change any of these numbers, but it won't actually enter my bids until I hit update. And so see, when I hit update, now it'll show bids updated. So, because that sometimes happens, people, it's easy to sort of forget to update. And so you'll sort of feel like, oh, I bid something, but it doesn't show up. That's often because people forgot to update. So now I'm going to go back to 20. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to send everybody out to the breakouts, and we're just going to bid for period 1. So later on, sometimes we'll have games where we'll have you bid for all 4 periods of the day at once, but we're just going to start to make sure everybody gets it. We're just going to bid for period 1. That's the one where, the total demand is very low. It's only 8,000 megawatt hours in the market in that hour. So just everybody's going to break into their groups, and we'll spend, 5 minutes, get to know each other. And then, all we're going to do is bid in it for period 1.
So just before we do that, Mark, just to make sure everybody understands. So system demand is 8,000.
Yes.
Each of you own 12,000 megawatts of capacity, which means there is a total of, and there's 4 firms, each of which owns each firm owns 12,000. That means that, as you might imagine, there's plenty of capacity to meet demand, as Mark's showing right here in the period 1 curve. So in other words, you're competing against other firms to sell your energy, and they know their marginal cost, you know your marginal cost. In some sense, this is a bit more information-rich environment than the real world, where you may at least know up to some small amount of error what your competitor's marginal cost is. But the important point is to remember you're bidding to serve that 8,000 megawatts of demand.
Exactly. Thank you, Frank. Yeah. So and just for convenience, we've put in this slide into the the spreadsheet here, just so everyone can see, or into the Google Doc. So any questions on what we're going to do when we send everyone out to the breakouts? So again, all you're doing is just going into that period. Oops. Let's see. You're just going in to place bids, and you're just placing bids for that first period. If you want, you can leave them all at marginal cost, but if you want, you can change them. Yes, Faith?
Hey, sorry, I have a question.
Mhm.
If everybody bid the same,
Yes.
but the demand is, okay, so let's say there's 8,000 of demand,
Yes.
12,000 of supply bidding at the same price. Who
Yes.
gets
Yes.
it?
Thank you. No, great question. I forgot to mention that. So Faith's question is, what happens in this, like for example, in this case that I've shown right here, we have only 8,000 of demand, but we have, about 16,000 that's bid in exactly at 20 at everybody's marginal cost. So in the way that this chart makes it look it makes it look like Genco 1 and 2 got taken for all their capacity, but Genco 3 and 4 did not. But that's actually just was our aesthetic choice in the choice. In the chart, the actual market rule is all the capacity bid in exactly at the market clearing price is shared pro rata according to the amount of capacity bid in. So what actually happens in this case is all 16 of these units across the 4 Gencos are running at approximately 50% for each unit. So thank you. Okay, yeah, I totally forgot to mention that. So excellent. Any other questions?
Yeah, the other thing I just wanted to emphasize in that this is the reason we're doing this is because it not necessarily this happens in the real world because you don't know with such precision what the marginal cost of your competitor is, but the fact that it is and those sorts of things occur, I think helps you to understand a little bit better, some of the issues that we'll discuss. The fact that everybody's identical, it just makes explaining many of the concepts much easier, and because we're controlling for the fact that all of you are the same.
Yeah, yeah. And plus, then if you win, you can be like, we had exactly the same portfolio, and I made a lot more money than you did. So,
There you go.
Yeah. So a couple of questions here. I think Len's question was, I believe I'm interpreting it correctly, is so yes. I mean, the capacity is split if multiple units bid in at that market clearing price. Again, it's just split, pro rata according to the capacity bid in. So in other words, if I bid in, 2,000, right, and you bid in 1,000, right, and we're each, and the total available capacity is sort of only half, or the output that's available that's needed at that price is only half of the capacity bid in at that price, and I bid in 2,000, you bid in 1,000, then I would get half of 2,000 as 1,000, you would get half of 1,000 is 500. So yeah, and then Ruchika has another good point. Yes, so good point. There's mention of wind, but there are actually no renewable units yet. So just ignore that. That's something that this chart shows. And once we have variable renewable units tomorrow, it'll show like what the renewable output was relative to the expected, but we don't actually have any renewable units in this case. So thanks. Yeah. So ignore that. Okay. So any questions about what we're going to do when we break out? All you're doing is bidding for period 1 only, and just meet your group, say hi, and then just, since it's the very first time, you could take 4 or 5 minutes, and then we'll yank you all back, and we'll run the market and we'll talk about it.
Anybody?
All right, let's see in the chat.
In the
$20. We have
$20. Okay.
several votes for $20. Okay,
How about
so
game two.
Game 2. Let's assume people are saying $20. All right, so I'm running. I'm running.
And I guess the question would be, anybody would like to volunteer why they think $20?
Oh shoot! Sorry, I messed something up. I ran 4 periods.
Oh,
That's
well,
okay. That's okay. I'll bring us back. Just means I'm going to have to quickly create new links, but we'll still look at this period, and then I'll take a moment to create a new game for everybody. Okay.
All right. Why don't you? Why don't
Okay.
you show them that, and then we can discuss.
So let's hold on one sec.
Your games in.
Okay, so let's see what we got, so everyone can see my screen. And okay, hold on a moment. Getting overwhelmed with Zoom controls that are preventing me from.
It's up there.
No, I know. Sorry. I have windows that are blocking my ability to do things.
Oh,
Just
sorry.
a second. Close. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's what we got. Okay, game A, everybody bid bid marginal cost of 20. Okay, and then game B. Okay, everybody also, well, except there was one. Okay, this is interesting. So there was one slight modification in period period 1 here. You can see, I like this. I like people doing things differently. So Genco 4 actually bid one of their intermediate units at something. So let's see
Below
what that
marginal
looked like.
cost at 20.
It looks like below marginal cost at 20. So do we think that team did better or worse? And so sorry, because I ran all 4 periods. This cumulative profits is for all 4 periods, but we're just going to look at the profits for period 1. So here's what happened in period 1 of game B. So you had the first 3 teams have minus 152,000. The last, this is great. So thank you, Genco 4, for doing something a little bit different. This is excellent. So what you can see is the
But
Gencos 1 through 3 all generated, 1,860. Genco 4 generated more here because they bid 1 unit down, right? So they bid 1 intermediate unit at a price of 20. And so this illustrated exactly what we're talking about, right? That okay, why did everybody lose, 152,000? Did you bid wrong in that period? And the answer is no, not at all, right? So you just were in a case where you had these fixed costs for the units, which so each of these base units had a fixed cost of let's see, it's $25,000 per unit. So you each had so your total burden of fixed costs for all your 16 units is $152,000. So you're just sucking that up regardless of whether you run or not, right? So your variable profits were 0, and you're just absorbing those fixed costs. But for Genco 4, right, there was 1 unit that was actually running, way below its marginal cost. So you lost a little incrementally more. Frank, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that was a very clever ploy by the team 4 or team 8. And the reason is that there was lack of clarity from us on essentially what would happen if you did that. In other words, if what you could have done is say, I bid, in your case, you bid 5,000 megawatts in, but only a fraction of that 5,000 megawatts was taken. And if you could specify which fraction of that 5,000 was taken, this would have allowed you to sell a lot more electricity. But because of how we did it, we're taking it proportionally from each unit rather than proportionally from your portfolio, and rather than proportionally from the cheapest part of your portfolio first, which is why your essentially losses were greater, because you lost money on the small share of that expensive unit that ran under the pro rata for you.
Yeah.
But nice idea, and sorry we didn't give you more clarity, so you knew that wouldn't work. But
Frank, I mean, it still wouldn't, bidding below your marginal cost still wouldn't have been helpful in that case, right?
No. Think of it as if what we'd have done it, they would have sold more, but they would have had essentially they wouldn't have run the expensive unit.
So sorry, I don't follow your logic.
So think of it as if they by essentially selling that additional megawatt at 20, they would have gotten pro rata to sell more. Yeah, exactly. As Len said, it's pro rata dispatch, but Genco 4 chooses what to dispatch, and he wouldn't have dispatched that expensive unit, but he would have gotten to sell more output from the from his units, from his cheap units.
Yeah, but although, well, I mean, I guess 2 things. So one is, these were all, the variable profits were all zero in this
Right,
case.
right. But I'm
because
just
it's
saying
putting
he
at
would
20.
have still had 52,000 lost, but he'd have sold more output.
Right, right. But if, let's say, demand had sort of been high enough that all those that it did call on this this
Well,
unit.
in terms of the question, I think it was, let's see, yeah, Faith, yeah, exactly. In this case, because of running at marginal cost, you essentially, your variable cost recovered in your market clearing price. That's exactly right. You're making
Right.
no, if you like, variable profit. So you're right. There was no point in competing for demand at marginal cost. That's correct.
Right.
But there could be circumstances where that's not true, and your strategy would have worked. And I just wanted to point that out.
But I mean, the key point that I still want to make here is that there's no, the way that the game is set up, and for the moment there's no benefit to bidding below marginal cost in this game, right? So
In this case, yeah.
yeah. Okay. So all right. So let me Frank, do you want to just lead a brief discussion while I load another game, because I
Sure.
used up this game? So
But to go further on this point is that, let's suppose that you knew everyone was going to bid $25. Then the Faith strategy would have made a lot of sense, right? Because you would have then gotten to sell, more output at $25. But but in this case, because it's at marginal cost, as you said, there was no point in competing for the demand at marginal cost. But again, the point of what I said before is if all four firms had bid at $25, something that you had no idea of knowing, that strategy would have worked. So I just wanted to congratulate you on thinking through that, since that's good. Those are the sorts of things we want you guys to, and that's precisely what market participants do as well. They're always looking for the margin to exploit. So next question is to ask everyone is, why did everyone bid $20 in this case? Wouldn't you have all preferred to have earned a higher price than $20? What made you bid $20? Was that willingly you bid $20? That was just what was the thought process that you went to say, I'll bid $20? There's no right answer here. I just want to hear, what's the thought process? Why was $20 a great idea in this case? So let me ask a question. Knowing what you know now about what your competitors bid, are you happy that you bid $20? Can everybody hear me? Can anybody hear me? Okay, important point. So given what you saw in the game, are you happy that you bid $20? Okay, I got to know, does someone want to unmute and explain why?
There are also some other explanation, like the reason in the chat. The
Oh, I'm
demand
sorry.
was so
I
low,
didn't see it.
so yeah, they said I
But
think
I asked in a more important question. I said, given that you saw what everyone else bid, would you like to change your bid? In other words, if you could see all other three firms' bids, would you have changed your bid from $20?
Probably not in this instance. I mean, I think it would depend on, if there was, let's say, if there's a little more constrained scenario, probably it would have helped. Right now, I don't feel happy or sad.
But let's just do the math real quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so all your competitors bid 4,000 in at 20, right?
Yeah.
In both games. So 4,000 times 3 equals what? 12. What is demand? 8,000.
Yeah.
Whatever you bid, if you bid above 20, you sell nothing, right?
Correct.
Does everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So in this case, you basically did the best you could given what your competitors did, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so, but you know, if your competitors have bid something else, you may have wanted to change. But in both games, there was at least 12,000 bid in at 20. So if you bid above 20, you were selling nothing. So that's key. That's called you had no ability to exercise market power, right? Because effectively, if you bid above your marginal cost, you were out. Does everybody see that?
Yeah, but my question here is that we could have bid higher, because as long as you're not losing money, I mean, or rather, there is no cost of sitting idle.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying, in this case, if you wanted to run, but we'll get to in the next round of the game, it'll be a little different. You'll see. But I mean, the point I wanted to get across to you is you couldn't have raised the price yourself in this game, and that's what's key. And you're exactly right that you know you could think of, as I think Faith put in, is that you're indifferent between running and essentially selling at marginal cost. But the thing is that in a more complicated and realistic version of the game, that's not going to occur. But the point is by doing this simplified version, we can isolate exactly what the issue is. The issue is you have no ability to exercise market power, because basically there's plenty of people bidding in at their marginal cost, and you can't raise it above the marginal cost. Your Mark's going to do now, it's a little bit more complicated.
Right. Okay. So so key point here, because I accidentally incremented all 4 periods in the day because I'm so used to doing that. So there are now new links. So same teams, everything's going to work the same way. But I've made the old links black. So you're going to want to go to the new ones on the Google Doc that are, if you're team 1 through 4, you'll be blue. If you're team 5 through 8, you'll be red, right? So you're going to go to your new links. And what we'll do now, if you want to change your bid from marginal cost in period 1, you're welcome to, but
no, just
also ignore it because we just talked about the fact that you did as well as you could, right?
Yeah.
So just go ahead to the period 2 bids. So we'll do same thing. We'll break out for a few minutes and do period 2 bids. And so remember here, the only difference is just going to be that demand is higher. So now, we're closer to 20,000 in period 2. Okay. But go ahead, so when you log into these new links, right, to make sure you're seeing the right one, it should say current period 1, on the top of the page there. Okay. So has everybody got what we're doing? So we're going out now and only bidding in period 2 for the new links, the blue or the red. Was that clear? And maybe Frank and I will go, and maybe Sita and anyone else will drop in on some of the rooms to say hi. Okay. 2. So
any predictions on the price?
Price predictions, period 2.
Put them in the chat. Price predictions, period 2.
All right. Okay.
Well, somebody's hedging their bets. 45.50. All right. 44.
All right.
We have someone who claims, okay, 44.50. All right.
Okay, let's do it. All right, now I'm going to only run 2 periods, so I don't have to do this again. So we're running periods 1 and 2.
I'll make the controversial prediction of 45.
45 is Frank's prediction. Yeah, when I'm testing games, I always increment 4 periods at once, and so clearly I can't break habits. Okay, so let's see. So here's the A game. Period. Oh, we've got interesting stuff going on. All right, period 2. Okay, this is very interesting. So we expected to need Wow. So there was a very bold move of someone bidding their peakers in at close to zero. And then some folks bidding in their base units a little bit higher. And yet still the price cleared at 45 because there was just enough capacity at 45. And it looked like nobody bid in their intermediate units below the marginal cost, kind of as expected. So we cleared at 45. Again, bold move from Genco 4, like getting, gonna make money by volume, even if we have to pay this much for our fuel, and then we only get paid this much for electricity. But bold move. Probably didn't help them. So if you look at the results, you can see Genco 4 was again, we love it, but lost more money because of running these plants, like you're paying more for fuel than you're being paid for the electricity from going below marginal cost. And then let's look at the B game. Okay, so the B game was interesting. Okay, so B game also cleared at 45, right? But this is, just like the A game, this is kind of interesting stuff, right? That basically these base units figure like, well, you figure that the price isn't going to clear most likely below 45 because, that you need at least some intermediate units to run, and you assume they're not going to bid below their marginal cost. But in the end, it still cleared at 45 because there were enough units that could supply at 45. And so, yeah. So in this B game, everybody ended up, financially doing the same because, the price cleared at 45. All these base units were received a price of 45 and their costs were 20. So they were making some contribution, back towards recovering the fixed costs of the base unit. So even though the overall cumulative in period 1 and 2 is still negative, you can see that's mainly from period 1, where we didn't make any variable profits. At least period 2, if you look at the profits here, you can see, we're doing a little bit better because we're making some variable profits against that fixed cost of 152,000 for our whole portfolios. So any questions about these results before we do period 3? So I think we should, what do you think, Frank? Run only period 3 or periods 3?
Yeah, let's run just period 3.
Okay. So any questions about that result? Any like cool ideas behind this spinning 0 for the peak units?
Or you entered the wrong number in the wrong place.
Possible.
Yeah, I think that was the case. We entered the wrong one.
Yeah, but yeah. But
all right,
but
so now let's make it up in period 3.
Okay, so period 3. So it's again same portfolios, just now we have the very high demand here.
And remember,
all right.
Demand is 40,000.
40,000.
Okay, the other thing to remember is how much capacity do you have? Anybody?
12 altogether.
Well,
Excuse me?
Yep.
Yeah, everyone
12,
has 12.
that's right.
Okay, there you go. That now cogitate on that and think about your bids.
All right, so how about we'll do another 5 minutes, then we'll run period 3, and then probably we can.
And remember, the other thing is, remember what Mark discussed early on with respect to, in his presentation, is since it will become extremely valuable on this period in the game.
Yeah.
So total demand, 40,000. You own 12,000, and so does everybody else.
Okay, so same links, the blue and the red links, and we're only bidding for period 3. Everybody. So let's do the traditional price prediction. Any predictions? for period 3? Anyone want to hazard a bold guess in the chat? All right, let's see.
90, okay.
90, wow. Expecting a conservative group.
200.
200, all right, faith has faith.
Just 200 though, okay.
Well, you know,
Oh,
okay.
we got a 500.
500. All right, let's see what we got.
See who's,
Okay. So
nope,
this is
yeah, there you go.
A.
You almost did it again.
No, this time I was careful. But yeah, I'm happy to have someone watch over me on that. All right. Okay, so we've got predictions from 90 to 500. Actually, I think there are even some 80s. People maybe expected some more below marginal cost bids, perhaps. Okay, let's see what we've got. Game A. Oh, interesting, interesting. All right, okay, this is I think somebody was foiled by the demand elasticity. So hold on, let me
Oh, just
so
missed.
close, right? So here's so you can see that so I think Genco 4 did a really good job of understanding being pivotal. It's just that we sneaked in that demand slope, which screwed you up. So demand response ruined your attempt, because if this demand had been totally straight up and down, not price responsive, you would have pushed it to 500. But those stupid consumers and they were a little bit responsive, but it was 120, so it was a little bit higher than it would have been. And you know, sadly for Genco 4, you know, you lost some of your intermediate capacity that you would have probably liked to have.
But it's not clear that let's see. Yeah, no, yeah, Genco looks like Genco 1 probably did the best.
Yeah, well, anybody who bid marginal cost or below for everything. So Genco 3 looked like they, you know, Genco 1 and 3 probably both did the best. Genco 2 probably did just about as well as anyone else. And Genco 4 was
spreadsheet.
It was a valiant effort. Okay. Yes, so Genco 2 did end up setting the price. So now let's look at game B. Okay, game B was even more conservative. So so it cleared at 100 for game B. So you had some people bidding up some of their units, right? But not all of them. And so, okay, so let me ask a question here. Which of your portfolio, which Gencos were pivotal here? Which Gencos were needed to keep the lights on? Who was pivotal? Was anybody pivotal? Okay, Genco 2, but it's sort of a trick question.
Everyone.
Everybody was pivotal. Yes, Ruchika's got it, right? So every single Genco is the same, right? And here you can see it for Genco 4, right? So total demand at the offer cap, right? And so again, Genco 4, great job. You were just foiled a little bit by our slight demand response. But look here, so this amount was the demand, right? If you know what you had left here, so you know this demand was, say, like, let's call it 38,000 roughly, maybe 37.5. What was everybody else's capacity? So demand at 500 was maybe 37,500. What was everybody else's capacity? Besides Genco 4?
36,000. No?
36,000. So 37,500 minus 36,000. So 1,500 megawatts of Genco 4 were needed, at least 1,500 megawatts. Same goes for all of the Gencos. So what would have happened? What would the price have been if Genco 4 had bid 500 for all of its units instead of just those 8?
500.
500, right? So every single Genco in this game had the ability to spike the price to 500 by bidding, you know, all except one of your units at 500 or all of your units, right? Now, the catch was you would have lost a lot of your output, right? So basically your variable profits would have essentially been, you know, if your unit was running here, so you could have had 500 minus 20, so you could have had $480 per megawatt hour on, you know, let's call it, you know, something like 2,000 megawatt hours, right? So 480 times 2,000. So, you know, it would have been a long, tall, skinny box for your variable profits, but it actually would have been more money than you made in the scenario where everybody bids marginal cost. So does that kind of make sense?
So again, let's go back to make it can we repeat that, Mark? So think of it as, if we look at this picture right here,
yeah.
Okay, the question would be, I'd ask you the following question. Given that you saw what every other Genco did, would you as a Genco like to change your bid? And I think the answer is, for every Genco, yes, except for me, well, probably even Genco, probably even Genco 4.
Yeah.
So in other words, keep the bars for everybody else but you the same. What would you unilaterally do? The easy one would be Genco 1. All Genco 1 had to do was bid approximately 4,000 megawatts at $500, and what would have been the price in the market? So let me try that again. So fix the bids of Gencos 2, 3, and 4. So the green, the blue, and the purple. What would Genco 1 prefer to do? Well, if Genco 1 bid, say, 3,000, you know, if they change their bids of that to 500, right? That would have then made the bar go up there and spike the price.
Yep. And so one other just thing to look at is we can calculate. So if, and let's say Genco 4 had decided to bid everything at 500. So there, and I just calculated it, and so they'd so one thing that so here's a question: if you're bidding high with some of your units, should you bid high with the lower marginal cost units or the higher marginal cost units? So like, did what Genco 4 did make sense? If they're going to bid 8 units at 500, did they do it the right way? Did they choose the right 8 units?
Well, right in the sense of
Correct.
That would maximize expected profits.
Yes.
So actually think of it the other way around. If I bid high with my high marginal cost unit and I get left out of the market, what does it cost me? Versus if I bid high with a low marginal cost unit and it gets left out of the market, what does it cost me? It costs me a whole lot more to get left out with a low marginal cost unit versus a high marginal cost unit. So I want to always bid high with the higher marginal cost unit, because it doesn't cost me as much if I lose, right? I lose less variable profits with it getting left out of the market.
Right. And so Ruchika is explaining in the chat. So Genco 4 did it absolutely correctly, right? Because this is what Ruchika is saying in the chat. Like they chose the higher marginal cost units to bid high, right? Because, you know, then they still have like you know, they got at least this $120. They got the difference between the market clearing price and the marginal cost of this unit, right? Which is bigger. If they'd chosen to have peak be the one that they bid low, they only would have made this amount, right? So So Genco 4 did a great job on this all round, right? Like again, just foiled by the demand curve
Well,
elasticity.
in what sense were they foiled? They were foiled by the aggressiveness of their competitors. If just one of their competitors had decided to bid even some of its capacity high, right? Think of it as, if Genco 2 had bid its last tranche there at 500, spike the price.
Yeah. So okay,
all Genco 4 needed was just a little help from their friends.
Right. So let's look at.
But unfortunately, collusion is illegal, but that's the point.
So okay, so let's say that Genco 4, if they bid these base units, let's say not at 500 because they don't want to share the capacity with those higher marginal costs, but let's say they bid it at 499, right? So all of these base units would have run, or at least 1.5 base units would have run full out, right? So what they would have made in that case, right? Their variable profits would have been basically 500 minus 20, so $480 per megawatt hour on about 1,500 megawatt hours. So that's about $720,000 variable profit, right? And then if you subtract, about 150,000 like for fixed costs, so it would have been about $570,000 that they would have made in that period if they bid everything up. And let's just compare that to how much people actually made in period 3. Yeah. So people's, actual profits, if things had stayed at, and actually let me look at the other game. So, because this was a game where the price was only 100,000. Hold on a sec. Yeah. So you can see in this game where everyone bid really conservatively, right? So people ran a lot on their units, but price was only 100. So, the maximum profits anyone made in that period were 428. Genco 4, just by themselves, without help from anyone else, could have made almost $600,000 by pushing up the price to 500, because even though they would have lost almost all of their output, they would still have enough units running at that very high price to make more. So this is sort of the trade-off, right? You lose output, and if they'd gotten more help from somebody else, they would have done better. But all right, I know we're kind of beating this to the ground a little bit, but does that make? Oh, and Faith brings up a great point, right? That yes. So Genco 4, by bidding everything really high, would have made more money than in the case where everybody bid marginal cost. So if you compare what they would have made running all their capacity, like, so say they had output of 10,000 at a price of 90 or 100, they're making less than an output of 1,500, much less at a price of 500. But yes, Faith is right. Everyone else would profit more, right? So at some point, like, if they're the only ones doing this, they might get tired of it, and of everyone else just milking their efforts to exercise unilateral market power. So that's
and you raise a very good point in the sense that if you like, it is that one of the things that certainly is, if it's just one firm and they're setting, in this situation is what's happening, and there isn't times when other firms are doing the same thing, Genco 4 is going to sort of tire of this. But again, as Mark said, remember, given what Gencos 1, 2, and 3 did, right? Genco 4's best reply is to keep doing it, right?
Yeah, because they're still doing better themselves.
They're still doing better. Is that, Faith, you're exactly right. But given that 1, 2, and 3 keep doing what they're doing, it's still in Genco 4's interest to do what it's to spike the price at 500.
Yeah.
Now, you may want to somehow communicate to the other firms that, hey, that but again, unilaterally, it's still in his best interest.
Yeah. Yep. So Luan is saying maybe Genco 4 comes from Texas in 2021 or California in 2000, 2001. So, but yes, but this is this is rational given these market conditions. So
well, given the offers of its competitors.
yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Again, but the other, remember, is that given Genco 4's offers and any two other Gencos, the remaining Genco should certainly want to, bid high to spike the price. So this is an example different from what we showed with period 1, is that there's no ability to exercise market power in period 1, because regardless of what there's no way for me to raise the price. Here, there's a way for everybody to raise the price. So we say everyone has an ability to exercise market power in this situation.
Yep. Okay, so Len is noting that Genco 1 did something interesting. They just reduce prices and waited for everyone else to try to push up the price. Although I would have one critique. So what is the logic? So is Genco 1 better off bidding everything at 0 like they did, or are they better off bidding marginal cost for all their units? Does anyone want to address that, like potential constructive critique?
So let me, is in a simple way to answer that is, suppose everyone had done what Genco 1 did, what would the market clearing price be?
Yeah, if everyone had been like
everyone would lose in that case. Yeah.
What would the price be?
Zero,
right?
Yeah, it'll be 0.
Yeah.
And
so whereas if he bid his marginal cost, he would in this case get the same payoff, but he'd guard against that outcome.
Yeah. Because if the price is 0, yeah, he definitely would rather not run, right? So, yep. Okay, so time for let's do our slightly delayed break. And let's see. So I said I'd go with a full 15 minutes. Do people still want that, or is 10 minutes good, or what do people think? Because we're either way, we're going to end on time. So
yeah. So how about this? Why don't we do 15? Okay. And when you come back, you're going to submit your bid for period 4 immediately.
Okay.
And you're going to remember this lesson about pivotality, but think a little bit more about it in period 4. Because I'll tell you, there is a pivotal strategy that works in period 4, but it's a little bit more complicated than what's in period 3.
Okay, so let's come back at 1:15. It's not quite 15 minutes, but and then we'll immediately bid on period 4, and then we're going to come back to the question earlier: why are we paying everyone the market clearing price when we know they don't cost that much? So we'll be back to that. Okay, so see you at 1:15. is. So it's where we've got 28,000 expected demand. All right. So any questions before we break out and place that last bid? No questions. Everyone, feel free to speak up. We like questions, so don't be shy.
I'm sorry, Mark. I have one question.
Yeah.
About bidding price and market price. So, which price that generators can sell the electricity? Is it the
So
bidding price or the market price?
it's the market price. It's
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Great clarification. So this is, if we look at let's just look at a game, the one we just did. So like here, for example, this price in game A, this $120 price, everybody to the left of here, everybody who runs gets that price, because this is a uniform price auction. So the thing we'll try next is we'll do a pay as bid auction where that's not true. But virtually every single electricity market, wholesale market works this way. So that everybody is paid this market clearing price. And that's why, in this game, right, that's why, like if you look at Genco 1, they bid 0 for everything, but they still were paid, like you can kind of see that in this, period 3, they, as well as Genco 3 here, they both got paid the most in period 3 because all of their units ran, right? So if you look at they generated 12,000 megawatt hours in that hour, and they all received this market price of $120 for all 12,000 megawatt hours. Yeah. And so you could see that, and this is what we were talking about last time, right? That Genco 4, did that they only got 4,000 because they were the ones who did the most to help push up the price. But it cost them some output because they had a lot of units that didn't run. Okay. All right. So we ready to good. Thanks for asking a question. That's perfect. That's what we're looking for. So, all right. Should we do the last, let's say, well, maybe, Nia, we could do 4 minutes on the timer, and then everyone will still have the 1 minute left after the 1 minute warning for the breakouts. So
Yes.
we're just bidding on period 4. All right.
Yeah, the breakout room is ready now.
Thank you.
Oh. So how long are you going to give them, Mark?
They have 4 minutes plus the 1 minute.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
1 minute countdown. Also, there's only one person in room 5. Everyone else from the group has not come back.
Oh, that's not good. Maybe we need to rejigger the groups, because there also seems to be some free riding on some of the groups.
Okay. Shall I move her to a different room? 5 would be Genco 1.
like room 6 has, 5 people in it. Maybe we do that after we get back.
Are you talking about readjusting rooms?
Yeah, just room 5 has 1 person in it, which is clearly probably not optimal, whereas room 6 has 5 people in it.
Yep.
Yeah, as room 2 also has 5 people. Room 1 has 5 people. No, room 1 has 4. So 2 and 6.
Do you think anyone will figure out what you're looking for here, Frank?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm counting on my EMA folks.
All right.
Veronica, there's this tiny. I think somebody is alone in one room. LG, is that okay? Room 5.
The reason Tanita actually is a mistaken at her in the workshop. Last time she confirmed, but say it's past the deadline, so we are not admit her. We're not
What
selecting.
about LG?
LG.
Room 5, she's alone.
Yeah, two participants didn't join back after the break.
Could you take her permission and move her to some other group, or she's okay doing alone? That's fine. I mean, she can play the game alone.
Or move
also.
someone else to her.
Yeah.
Because we only have like less than a minute left.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, let's wait till we get back. That's fine.
Okay, fine.
All right, 60-second warning. All right, I think folks are back. Any price predictions? Period 4. Feel free to put them in the chat or shout them out. Okay.
Oh,
90. I like that.
oh,
Interesting.
all right.
Oh,
Is there? Oh,
50,
I like
40,
this.
85. All right. 400. All right. Like the boldness. Okay. So let's see what we get. The beauty of it is we don't know either. All right. So increment 1, period game A.
But I. Why don't you show them the picture after you of the
Sure.
graph to show that what if everybody bid marginal cost, the price would be.
Yep. So here is.
It's not showing yet.
Oh, sorry. Yep. I always have to remember with Zoom that what I see is not this. Or actually, I'll just do it on the, hold on a moment.
Yeah, finish your doing the games.
Okay. Okay, so everyone can see where I am on the game. So can people see the chart
Yes.
here?
Yeah.
Right. So here's if everybody bid marginal cost, we would
It says-
expect it to clear at 45.
Yet you guys said 90 or
90.
below 90. How could that be?
How could that be? Should we see the results? Then we'll talk about it. All right. So this is game A. Whoa, sure enough. 89. Wow. Someone had some inside information. All right, let's see game B.
So but we should ask about this. This is good. So
85. All right, wow. So those 90 predictors are pretty good. So what
so
happened?
Can someone explain 89? Please.
Anyone want to explain their brilliance?
Okay, I'll take that attempt. I think we were Genco 3. Well, the way we figured it out was that we had the market power in a sense that if you looked at the block of the base and the intermediate, the other three market participants had only 24,000 megawatts. So there were 4,000 megawatts with us. The question is, how do we do this? Yes. So
Very good.
You do it, and the reason I put 89 was because you didn't want to bid 90 because then the next tranche will come in.
Yes. All right.
And the 89, I guess, also helped with the kind of the curve, perhaps, which we didn't know exactly how it kind of bent. So yeah, that was our reason.
Way to go. So
You got it.
To translate what you just said into maybe four, hopefully more familiar terms, is that you're essentially your pivotal up to 90. At 90, you would trigger in all of that expensive generation at 90, but you were pivotal for about 5,000 up to 90. So you could have actually done a little better in the sense of 89.99, but hey, 89 is good enough.
Do allow pennies. So, right.
Very good. Very good.
So as Frank is saying, so at a price of 90, and as I guess Sid just explained their logic. So at a price of 90, the demand is about 28,000, right? And everybody else's supply, below 90 is a total of 24,000, right? So there's there's 4,000 that you're needed for, and
you're pivotal for.
You're pivotal for, and so Genco 3, you did a great job here because they took 8,000 and they bid that up at 89, and they got it done. It was good, and even even another like tiny little nuance here, right? Because actually you also benefited from one of the other intermediates bidding high. Like an extreme nuance is you could actually bid the base. You could have bid the base at 89.98 cents and the intermediate at 89.99. Just to make sure that your lower marginal cost is preferentially running. But great job. And it looks like something similar perhaps happened. Well, I think not quite as much here. That really, no, it is kind of the same idea. So here it looks like Genco 2 who sort of figured this out, right? That, yeah, right. Except the thing that was a little strange was normally this base unit you would want to have be one of your lower ones and bid it up, like if you're going to bid something super high, bid that with the peak unit here, because that's the one that if it doesn't run, you lose less, right? Because this base unit, ideally you'd like that to be running because that has the lower marginal cost. So, you would have gotten this, 85 minus this lower marginal cost as your variable profits instead of the, 85 minus 45. But anyway, but this was really nice, especially by Genco 3, figuring out that at a price just below 90, you're pivotal for 4,000. So if you bid, 8,000 of that up, you can push the price up.
So to just put a finer point on what Mark just said, is that relative to everyone bidding marginal cost, the interesting thing you can see is in this case, you basically managed to sell the same amount virtually that you would have sold at a price of 45 if everybody bid marginal cost, but you managed to sell it at 90 by recognizing this. And again, thanks to the behavior of Gencos 1 and 2. So,
yeah,
but again, your strategy would have worked regardless of what they did because you're pivotal for 4,000. So that illustrates, I think, sort of a very important point, which is understanding, sort of this concept of pivotality is very important to being able to essentially raise the market clearing price. Now, and it works, at extreme demand conditions, and to a lesser extent, it works in other demand conditions, as you saw in period 4. All right.
Yep.
So one of the things, and then, so that's lesson 1. Lesson 2 is, as we said before, always think in terms of, if I am going to exercise market power, I want to make sure I do it with the units that don't cost me as much in terms of lost profits if I'm left out, which means to the greatest extent possible, you always want to get those cheap units operating if you're going to operate any amount of output. And then with the more expensive units, you can push the price up because it doesn't cost you as much in terms of lost variable profits. Does everybody understand what we mean by the concept of lost variable profits?
So like an example here, yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to say was that couldn't update it on time when you ran the program, but what we were trying to input was like 89 for the base and 95 for the intermediate, because that would force only the base load to be called upon, and our profit would have been higher. But I think what went in was like across the board the same price. So I guess it's proportional calling on all the units. Yes. So we don't have a choice.
If you'd have been in it at above 90, all that stuff to the right of you would have been taken.
You would not have been taken for these.
No, but it's like 4,000 megawatts of base load and 4,000 megawatts of the
intermediate.
Yes.
So what you did is the best you could do.
Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that maybe because there's a shortfall of only 4,000 megawatts, if I bid, I'm not going to be running my intermediate.
Oh, I see. You bid them all at the same price. You didn't differentiate.
Yeah, so
you're right. You should have bid your base at below your intermediate for precisely the pro rata reason. You're exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. So sorry, that was the intention. It never went to the model. So that's the clarification I was trying to make. Yeah.
But we're just celebrating the fact that you got the basic idea right. But you're right. That's round off error.
But you still, like Frank was saying, you still wanted to bid this, this intermediate, having that at 89 was good. If anything, maybe just shading the base slightly lower than 89. Because as Frank said, in this scenario, if you'd bid 95 on this intermediate, it would have been out of the market, right? So this way, you got 8,000 running pretty much full out at 89. And the other way, you only would have had 4,000 running at 89. So
Faith has got a question.
Yeah,
so
go ahead,
please
Faith.
Ask a question. We like questions. We love
Yeah.
questions. We adore questions.
Okay, thanks. So actually we were Genco 2 on the second group, and I wanted to explain why we bid the base units so high.
Great.
We're just thinking that actually if everybody bid at marginal cost, we won't be able to set the price because there's only 28,000 of demand. And if you take out all the base units, that's 16, that leaves 12,000, which means we may not set the price with our intermediate if everybody just bid at 45. So whatever we bid, we would lose out. So we thought we could take our units out of the system and then create that market power so that what we set would then, for the intermediate units, would be the price. Yeah, but probably.
But the question is, why did you, right, but why did you take out these units?
Here's a simple correction.
Yeah.
You could have taken the intermediate unit, bid it at the base unit, and bid the base unit at what should be the intermediate unit and make more profits.
Yeah,
that's what we're saying. You
yeah.
see that?
So
if you switch these two, the bids for these two, this one
would've made
and
more
this
money.
one. Do you see that?
Yeah, but am I right to say that if everybody just bid at marginal price?
No. You're right, but we're just trying to get you to see, given what everybody else did.
Yeah.
Now
Now that
better. You agree or no?
yes, I agree.
Okay, so now ask your question.
Yeah. So no, but my point was that I don't know what everybody is going to do. And
That's
I
correct.
assume that my assumption was that everybody would bid at marginal price and that then the clearing price would be 45. So I was trying to create something so that we could set the price.
But remember, setting the price is not as is not what you want to do. If anything, you want to make the most money, right?
Yeah.
Often setting the price means you're selling less because you're setting the price than if you were inframarginal and someone else set that same price, right? So the one lesson, the other third lesson is you always want to be the person bidding marginal cost when someone else is bidding far above marginal cost, right?
Correct, yes.
But the problem is that can't happen unless you collude. So, but that's the outcome you want. And that's the fundamental dynamic of competition, is that everybody wants someone else to raise the price for them and they bid marginal cost. And so to the extent that we can build that into the market, that incentive, so that everyone wants to bid marginal cost, then consumers start to benefit. So that's kind of where we're going with the and so next we're going to do a situation where you may think this helps, but you'll see it might not help, and that's the pay as bid auction.
And I think just a point about this, if you think about, like, okay, everybody's bidding marginal cost here, right? It's still always going to be better if I'm trying to bid up any unit to maybe use it to help push up the price. I'm always better off choosing my unit with a higher marginal cost to do that with, right? Because there's, so what happens if I bid the base unit, at a very high price, it moves all the way over to the right side of the merit order or the offer curve rather. But there's no advantage to doing that, versus like, well, then I might as well just bid very high on this one that has a higher marginal cost, right? It's always going to be more advantageous for your high bids to be, because, just if any units of yours are going to be running, you want it to be the ones with the lower marginal cost, right? So, okay, great. But yes,
at any price, you always want the cheapest stuff to run because you get the highest margin.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So someone had a question?
No, I think we're good. I think
okay.
Pasamon's expressing the same point.
Yeah.
So, Okay, so as Frank said, well, so sort of 2 points. One is that all you regulators might be thinking, okay, well, we're seeing how to be good gencos and spike the price and maximize profits for our shareholders, but this isn't necessarily as a regulator, like you don't want this to happen too much, right? I mean, it's high
We
prices
don't
for
want to have it happen at all. But
yeah, well, I mean, there's an argument that like maybe
no, there's
having
no
zero,
argument. There's no argument.
yeah,
We
yeah.
don't want to have it happen. Okay. But the
have
trick
market power
is
ever
that we want to
anytime.
make it in the unilateral interest of
Right,
firms to essentially do what we would like them to do. But what we can't do is compel people to bid their cost. And so
Right.
what we're about is how do we think about market rules and other kinds of things so that people have an incentive to do what we as the market designer would like them to do. One of the things in the early stages of the markets is if you could put up any sort of graph with a market clearing price and a lot of inframarginal capacity, maybe it doesn't matter. So one of the things early on is that, this is probably not a good one, but from the game would be good. But the idea is that people would see the offer curve and they would see a lot of capacity bid in at a very low offer price. So go to the one where they bid in all zeros. That would be great.
Okay, hold on a
You
second.
can find it.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, what happened is that like for example,
Hold on, I'll find it.
Good,
Just a
period
second.
4. So what they would look at it, they'd say, wait a minute, you're paying the box in period 4, meaning the quantity times the price. Mark can outline it right there. So you're paying that box to everyone, meaning that's what consumers pay. Whereas, they look and they'd say, wait a minute, you could get it for much cheaper. Just pay the area under the offer curves. And you can see that's roughly half the amount. And so that's what's called a pay as bid auction. We still clear the market in the sense that we set it, we dispatch the units based on the bids, so the lowest to highest necessary to clear the market, but we only pay people what they bid in if it is below or equal to the market clearing price. Okay, that is what we'll call a pay as bid auction.
So do people see that? So in other words, we would only pay what in a pay as bid auction, different from what we've been running. We would only pay, so we'd pay these units this bid price, we'd pay this unit this bid price, this unit this, we'd pay, instead of paying the market clearing price, we would just pay what they bid. And so, you can see all the units here except, Genco 1, that they are making a small amount, they're making some variable profits still based on what they bid, but they're not making they're not being paid that market clearing price.
So the logic was, and that this was, believe it or not, even in the early days of the California market, there was actually a blue ribbon panel that was charged with actually looking at this question and seeing whether they should switch to a pay as bid auction design versus a uniform price auction design, given that this gray area you can see in the box, the sort of, you could say, some observers thought that was money that could be captured. So what we're going to do is see whether or not that money could in fact be captured by running under identical conditions a pay as bid auction for you. Okay. So first question that we should ask the audience is it the case that you should ever bid your marginal cost in a pay as bid auction? What do you earn if you bid your marginal cost, and when? That's a question. There you go, 0. So what does that say? That says that clearly, perhaps even in period 1, it might make no sense to bid your marginal cost, because as you guys rightly saw, is that you you basically can earn zero profit. And it's certainly in period 2, and you're bidding your marginal cost for your $20 unit, you're going to earn zero on that $20 unit. Whereas under the uniform price auction, you saw you earned, I think it was 45. Okay. So why don't we run a uniform price auction?
Okay. So hold on one moment.
But before we do, make sure everybody understands the difference between pay as bid and uniform price.
Yes. So just one sec. Let me load up a game.
If any questions, please ask in the chat or speak up.
Okay, so I'm graying out. Or
no one can see. Oh.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, let's see. All right, so we're going to have a new set of games. Don't go out to them quite yet. Copy them here. All right, pay as bid. Okay, so I've blacked out the old ones, and now we're not going to go there quite yet. But you can see, so if you're curious, like now under game conditions, auction type, it will say pay as bid, right? And just to come back to what Frank is talking about. So does everybody kind of understand how the payments work in pay as bid? Oops, wait, can people see my screen?
Or we cannot see yet.
Okay, hold on, sorry. Okay, sorry. Okay, so just as an example, so what would be in pay as bid, like these units, what would they receive? Just a test of understanding. What price do these units get paid in pay as bid?
In the pay as bid, they get paid the number that they bid.
Right. So what roughly what does that look like that is here?
It's slightly below 50.
Yeah, I think 45 or something.
Yeah.
Okay, and so right. So uniform price, they got paid 89. Pay as bid, they got paid 45 because that's what they bid. What about, and so what do these guys get paid in pay as bid?
24.
I think it's I think it's 20. I think
20.
They bid their marginal cost. So as Frank was saying, is it ever are you ever going to make any profits bidding your marginal cost in pay as bid?
No.
Yeah, because you're locking in never making more than my marginal cost. So all right, so is that clear to everybody? So the idea, just as Frank said, like this comes up a lot, right? People say, well, wait a sec, like I know people's costs are something down here. Why are we paying everybody this whole big box when all we really need to pay people is the amount under the box of what they bid, right? So we can save all this gray area and money. That's the logic. We'll see if it works. So any questions? So I think what we should do is bid periods 1 and period 2 at the same time. Does that work for people? So everything else is the same. As Frank said, it still works the same, figuring out who's running, right? So still the people to the right of here, you still figure out what this market clearing price is. It's just you don't pay that to people. You just pay them what they bid, but they still have to bid at or below that market clearing price in order to run. And does that make sense to people? So now when you go into your, and I can just show it here quickly. So we're going to the new, I've blacked out the old links, so you'll have new links that should say period 1, right? And so I'm just going to go into kind of same thing as before, but first I'm going to go period 4 and decide what to bid, and then I'm going to do period 2 and decide what to bid. So period 1 and then period 2 all in the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, somebody had a question about, yeah, remember, what we're trying to find out is whether or not a pay-as-bid auction is superior. So why don't we just run it for periods 1 and period 2, Mark?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So let's, how about like 7 minutes to give you time to do both of them? So maybe
the important thing to remember is the same demands, the same marginal costs, and the same decision rule for who gets dispatched. The only difference is you get paid what your bid if you get dispatched.
Yeah. So
Everybody,
maybe Frank, you can sort of visit 1 through 4, and I'll visit 5 through 8 periodically.
Okay, sure.
And so yeah, so Nia, could you send us out for So let's let me load up. Okay. All right. So let me price predictions. Always got to have price predictions. Any ideas?
Period
Guesses?
one.
Period one, price predictions.
Oh, $21. I like it.
21. All right.
So
Period two.
So somebody is skeptical that pay as bid's going to be cheaper.
Period two predictions. All right. Well, let's see what we get. So I'm
Okay,
gonna.
we didn't get any predictions on period two. Or did
Period
we?
two. Come on, someone predict something.
Come on, this is good. This is good.
All right.
Oh, we got a 60. I like
60. Interesting. Okay. All right. Let's run them 2 periods at a time. All right. I believe this is game A. Oh, wow. Sure enough, 25 in period one.
And so next first question to everybody is, which market design in period one was better for consumers? Pay as bid or uniform price? Oh, very good. All right. What about period two?
All right, period. And actually, let's look at period one of game B as well. Okay, so all right, so period one, game B, 20.5. So a little bit lower, but all right. So period two, let's do period two of game B. Whoa, 50. Okay. So hold on a sec. All right, so we had people, bidding up these a little bit. We had some people filling in that gray area a little bit.
So why did the people that bid a little bit above 20 not bid up to 45? In other words, just a sec.
Genco
so
3.
Effectively, Genco 3 and Genco 1, was there any reason to bid below like $44.99?
Like these folks did. Genco 2 and Genco 4 bid right at 45.
I don't know. We were Genco 3, but we did not bid this price. We bid actually $46 and $44.99.
Well, unless I'm looking at, let's see the other game.
Okay.
It's okay, because it's possible I'm confused. Oh, wow. Okay. So again, I could be mixing up which is game A and which is game B. But here's whichever game this is, what happened to my gray area where I was supposed to save consumers money?
It went away.
Why'd it go away?
Because the rules changed.
So does anyone want to explain of all 4 Gencos uniformly bid their base up to around 45 or just short of it or just above it? What was the logic here?
Here we are from Genco 1. We bid the price for 44.9.
Nice.
And
okay.
the budget price is 99, because we think that maybe some people will set it to the price to the intermediate, the 45. So we want to make sure that our generation will be run. So we put it a bit lesser. So we put it 44.99.
Great. And how were you so sure that you would run at 44.99? You were right, but how were you so sure?
We expect that for the period 2, there would be the demand around 20,000. So at least some people they put the price in the immediate price. So for our best, we put it to 44.99. It should be in the space within the 20,000 demand.
Yeah. So right.
So what you're saying is at least some of the capacity that has a marginal cost of 45 would have to run in order to meet demand. So if you were below that price, you would run for sure. And so you went at the lowest possible price you could, below the highest possible price below that, which was 44.99.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So, good. So people filled in the box.
So yeah, exactly as Mark said. So the question becomes the following: is that suppose two things were true. Suppose that we hadn't given you the picture so that you knew what where the aggregate marginal cost curve crossed demand, and we hadn't run the uniform price auction first. How would you have known what to bid in the pay as bid auction? In other words, if you didn't know what the market clearing price was in the uniform price auction, how would you have known what to bid in the pay as bid auction?
Yeah.
Think of the information requirements. You would need to know what is the marginal cost of everybody else besides me? What is the level of demand? You know, in the case of the uniform price auction, if you are a small firm, what should you do?
In uniform price
auction.
What we did before.
You offer in at?
I mean, you just go ahead with your marginal cost because you'd assume, you know, whoever has better information would be able to set the price and you get the benefit.
Right. If you're a small guy in a uniform price auction, it's really simple. Bid your marginal cost. That's it. That's what's going to maximize your profits. Whereas in a pay as bid auction, what a pay as bid auction becomes is what's called guess the market clearing price auction, in the sense that what you're going to do is bid right up to where you think the market clearing price is, because that's how you make your money, is all on your offer price in excess of the market clearing price. And so one of the things that can happen in a pay as bid auction that it didn't happen this time, but what you can get is you can get that units are dispatched based on the greed of the market participant, not necessarily on their costs. So maybe where, in other words, you'll see cheap units that get left out because the owner of that unit bid them up too high, whereas more expensive units, meaning in terms of their costs, run. And you know, that is, whereas in the case of a uniform price auction, and everyone bids their marginal costs, we'll just simply get the marginal costs line up. We'll get the cheapest units operating. Maybe it's, if you go to the one above, Mark, you can, in period 1, maybe we'll see it.
Sure.
Do we see a similar circumstance? No.
But let's check the other game.
Yeah. But
no,
you know,
so
we don't get it. But
you can see, like Frank was talking about, this one that we're looking at here, right? Like the price cleared at 46, right? You could easily have had one of these base units just assume, hey, I think that intermediate's going to bid it up more than 46. So if some of these folks had bid 50 instead, or 47 or whatever, it would have, they would have been out of the market, right? So you could have had more, well, I guess maybe they would have had to be above here, but you could have had units that were less expensive from a marginal cost perspective that didn't end up running because of the nature of the auction.
So one of the things when we teach this to our MBA students, and we ask the question, which I was surprised you guys didn't get right, which is, how do you know what to bid if we hadn't run the uniform price auction first, all the MBAs know the correct answer, which is hire a consultant, and the consultant will tell you what to bid. But the question then again becomes, who can afford the consultant, a large firm or a small firm? Well, obviously, a large firm, right? They can amortize it over a larger number of output, which means that if what you want to do is have a market that supports entry, which market is more conducive to entry, a uniform price auction or a pay-as-bid auction market?
Uniform price.
Yeah, there you go. So that's basically why, you know, there's no, as you can see, there's no obvious advantage to the pay-as-bid auction, because when market rules change, behavior changes. And as you saw, even for the case of period one, it turned out that it was higher for both period ones than it was under the uniform price auction. So, you know, the basic idea is that if we want to make it easy for small firms to participate, we want to encourage entry, and we don't want to have to hire lots of consultants that have to be paid for. A superior solution is the uniform price auction, and that's basically what virtually every market in the world uses for their short-term market.
Frank, I have a question on that. Now, yes, so you see the benefit from the uniform price method. Now, if I was a market designer looking at pay as you bid, what could I be doing to make it easier for the smaller firms to bid? Would that be putting in a price cap on, let's say, base load?
No, at least I'd argue there's no reason, you know, why try to put, you know, lipstick on a pig, is I guess my point, is that there's no obvious advantage to the pay-as-bid auction, and you have a much simpler and easier to administer auction design. Just go with that. Because the other problem with the pay-as-bid auction is when people see what happens, like if we go back to the picture of period two from the other auction, right? If Mark goes back to that.
This one. What's that?
Yeah,
This
think
one.
of it, the second that market participants saw this auction result, they would be, you know, we want to change our bids. Whereas think of it in the uniform price auction, you know, they're not going to want to change their bids from marginal cost in period two if the market clearing price is 45. The baseload units, they have no incentive to change. Whereas here, you can see the baseload units would clearly want to change their bids for at least GenCos 3 and GenCo 1 so that they could get back up to that, you know, $50. So the other side of it is there's a stability property to the uniform price, meaning that, look, you know, it not only, even after I see what others have done and we repeat the game, I'm still going to do the same thing. Whereas here, they're going to change.
Frank, I have a question here. I mean, I see the merits of this, and the incentives are very different. But in terms of like even kind of the marginal cost market, the market participants still have a right, as I understand, to bid anything they want. It's not just their marginal cost. They can
Precisely. That's right.
Eventually, if I'm looking at it, isn't your pay what you bid, or rather, you know, marginal cost system at best can be only as good as pay as you bid? Now, just for an argument's sake, because there's nothing which stops the market participants to behave the way they are behaving in the pay what you bid market, also in the marginal cost market.
No, there's no such thing as a marginal cost market. The two markets are uniform price.
Yeah, uniform price.
And the thing is that remember, in the uniform price auction, there is no reason for a baseload unit to bid above its marginal cost in that auction because it gets paid the market clearing price.
Yeah.
Whereas here in the pay as bid auction, any dollar I bid above my marginal cost is $1 in my pocket. And so I, at the margin, always have an incentive to bid higher, except for the fact that I get left out. Whereas, if I'm a cheap unit in a uniform price auction and I don't think I can influence the market clearing price, think of periods 1 and period 2, bid my marginal cost, easy. Whereas here, I actually got to bid above my marginal cost in order to get paid above my marginal cost. That's the difference.
Yeah, and Len is saying this in the chat, basically the same idea that the market decides what I get paid. If I'm a small unit, I don't think I can affect the price anyway. I just bid marginal cost, and in a uniform price auction, if I'm not trying to affect the price, if I don't think I can affect the price, marginal cost is always my best bid, right? Because it just means anytime the price is above or equal to my marginal cost, I run. Anytime it's below, I don't. And that's exactly what I want to maximize my variable profits all the time, right? It's just kind of marginal cost and forget it, right?
Yep.
Whereas in a uniform price, I got to guess what the market. So another way to think about it is that if I don't think I can influence the market clearing price, I don't even need to care about what the level of demand is. I don't need to care about anything. Whereas in a pay as bid auction, I need to care. I need to know, because I need to know that in period 3, I need to bid much above my marginal cost, and in periods 1 and 2, much less closer to my marginal cost under a uniform price auction, but not in a pay as bid auction, but not in a uniform price auction. Uniform price auction, it's like Mark said, marginal cost and forget it, unless you think you have that pivotal position where you can influence the market clearing price. So think of it as in periods 1 and 2 in the uniform price auction, it's really simple. Bid your marginal cost, you're done. Whereas in the pay as bid auction, you got to think and you got to know what the market clearing price is.
And just an important point to make sure this is clear. Pay as bid has no deterrent effect on the exercise of unilateral market power. Period 3, if I'm pivotal, I have just as strong an incentive to bid really high in pay as bid as I do in uniform price. So it doesn't it doesn't help you in that sense as a regulator, right?
I mean, as Mark said, think of it as what you did is you said, oh, I'm pivotal in period 3 for 1,500 megawatts. If I bid all my capacity in at $500, I get paid $500 for that pivotal quantity. Same as would be the case in the uniform price auction that Mark went through.
Yeah. So does that make sense? Any other people want to mount a defense of pay as bid and give arguments we're missing, or?
Sorry, one last point on this. I don't want to belabor this. I completely understand what's being said, but I'm thinking from a regulator perspective. In a uniform price model, there is no. I mean, from a regulator perspective, there's no money left on the table in a sense that everybody gets paid the same. But if you are, the pay system, then there is a possibility that some people would have bid lower than the market clearing price, and that consumer surplus could be extracted. I know it's very difficult to do that, but because people will learn through repeat games. But if you look at it not from a simplicity or implementation perspective, but just making a theoretical argument, in the uniform price, you cannot do better from a regulator perspective than pay what you bid kind of thing, because the market can still exercise in a uniform price market. Also, there's higher bids, so there's nothing different from that perspective.
But we just showed that you paid more under the pay as bid, so that's not a theorem, that's an assertion.
I mean,
see right there, period 1, that's the whole point. Period 1, period one of the uniform price, it was $20. So consumers did worse in both games under period one for the pay as bid auction.
I agree. I mean, people's behavior changed, and I guess that's your point. Yeah.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
the point.
yeah.
That's the point.
That's exactly
that's
it.
the point.
And I mean, you're right that, like, you know, you could have cases where somehow everybody underestimates the market clearing price. So you might have some case where there is some gray area, but you know, it can go either way, right? And you also will have cases where, you know, people are bidding it up more. You'll have cases where, as Frank was talking about, the merit order is not efficient, and that you'll have lower cost units that are out of the mix and higher cost units in the mix. So it's just more that there's really no
Obvious advantage.
no obvious
Only
advantage,
disadvantages.
and there are clear disadvantages, you know, in terms of the barriers to entry for smaller players, you know, the difficulty, like you know, the need to hire consultants, the fact that it's just a much more sort of complicated, requires much more information for market participants, and there's just no, you know, at the very least, there's no obvious cost benefit to consumers, and as you said, because people are changing their, you know, will change their behavior accordingly. So there's not going to be this systematic, you know, kind of benefit that yeah.
And just to go, I mean, maybe we're beating a dead horse, but basically go back to the point of period three where essentially the guy that's pivotal bids 500, but you're the little guy that's terrified of getting left out of the market in period three. So you bid close to your marginal cost. Big guy makes 500, you make just a little bit above your marginal cost. You know, we're sort of in some sense rewarding the big guy for being big without really rewarding the little guy and getting more little guys to come. So we're you know, we're in some sense dulling the incentive. That, think of that uniform price to a new entrant is very attractive, and it basically says, look, you're going to get that price because it's a uniform auction, so come, please come.
So I think this is a good time to wrap up, and I don't think this, like this might seem in a way like a tangent, given the fact that, as Frank said, you know, virtually no markets use pay as bid for the reason.
The reason they don't use them is because of this, what we just
exactly. And but I think it's really valuable to go through this, because it really, in our experience, I mean, sharpens one's understanding of how the market mechanics and incentives are working to really compare those two. So you know, that's why like sometimes we're like, oh, well, maybe we should, you know, skip the pay as bid market because no one uses it. But then we always come back to, it's just so instructive kind of seeing why everyone does uniform price. And it's also very helpful because this always comes up, right? Like and not just in electricity markets. We had a discussion with an MBA in our class, and it was something like, you know, they were doing research on fisheries, and it was, you know, again, like people were saying, well, we should do pay as bid, you know, for fisheries, and it's always the same logic, right? That the people think, like, why are we paying more than what people's cost structure is, right? Like, why are we paying the inframarginal people that you know, uniform price? And you know, this the logic we've been through is why that's a superior system, that you know, you can't get something for free, and that different rule under pay as bid, people are always going to try to figure out what's that market clearing price, but it's going to be sort of a mess as they try to figure it out. So I really think this is valuable to really go through this. And so just the parting thought for and sort of what we're going to go through tomorrow, and I'm confident we are going to get to day ahead markets, but first, you know, we'll briefly touch on like transmission constraints, but then we're really going to go to forward contracts, because what we've shown today is this, you know, what this issue with unilateral market power is, you know, how sort of easy under certain circumstances it can be to exercise unilateral market power in electricity markets. And so, for all you regulators out there, the forward contracts really give a very powerful tool for aligning the incentives of the generating companies bidding with what you would like, which is, ideally marginal cost bidding, right? And so you're sort of, so we'll go through how that works. And then the day ahead markets, basically the day ahead market, you get a schedule from the day ahead market results for your portfolio, which in essence looks to you like a forward contract that then is cleared in the real-time market. And so by going through, so we've kind of demonstrated the unilateral market power problem. We'll show tomorrow how forward contracts kind of can blunt that problem, and then we'll see how forward contracts sort of create, make day ahead markets work, and hopefully at least a quick demo of how that plays into renewable energy as well. So great job. I like all the questions. I like how much everyone's even more, bring more questions, but really like how much everyone's getting into it and all the different things people are trying. And we'll come back tomorrow at the same time.